Okay, I guess we have another minute to go here according to my computer, and we'll call the meeting to order. So, Krista, was there any public input that you have or public
No,
comment?
I received no public comment.
Okay.
Chuck, and I did extend an invite to Mark Thomas, and I sent him an email. I said, just in case he wanted to chime in or give an update on the Punky Manor that's taking place this weekend. So I don't know if he's going to join us or not, but I did offer the invitation out there.
Oh, okay. Okay, being 6:30, we will call the facilities meeting to order. Roll call shows all members present, along with Deb and Dave and Krista and John. Scott, okay. Item C, approval of the minutes, August 25th and August 31st minutes. You were all mailed those. Any additions or corrections to be made to the minutes? If not, I'll need a motion to accept them as presented. Don made a motion. Don made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mike seconded. A motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the August 25th and August 31st meeting. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay, the motions are as presented, or the minutes are as presented. Public comments, we have no public comments. Items placed at the request of the chair, we have none there. So we'll go right into the staff and recreation reports, fair and fair board. Yep.
Hello, everyone. I provided you with a written report, and I just thought it might be kind of nice to, I know I spoke a little bit right after the fair, but didn't have a lot of numbers on as far as the meat animal sale. This was our first year, of course, with bringing the meat animal committee under the fair umbrella as a subcommittee. We feel that everything went really well. We had a lot of good input from the kids on the auction. Obviously, you can see the prices were outstanding. We had less animals this year, but we sold for almost a little over almost $100,000 more on those 69 animals. Interesting piece of it is that, you know, the 95% of the animals that were sold on the auction went back to the buyer to be consumed, which I think is outstanding. Kind of goes to show us some of the quality of the meat that we're raising in Dunn County and working with the youth. We are still working through what the fair is going to look like in the future, and how we're going to move forward and come up with ideas on handling all of that piece. So other than that, I don't have a lot of updates. I guess I can update you that the state association, Wisconsin Association of Fairs, has been working diligently along with a lobbyist to try to get another grant package put together for fairs to recoup some of the losses from last year and to even help with some of the things this year. Unfortunately, when the grant was pushed through, they changed it, the requirements, and took out the caveat that all fairs could apply. As it looks now, it's only going to be the 501c3s, 501c5s, of that type of nonprofits that either own their buildings and not the ground, or own the ground and not the buildings, and that aren't connected with a government entity. So that puts probably close to 50% of our fairs in the state that will not be eligible to apply for that. I think it's like the $11 million grant package, which is very disappointing to us. The government Department of Administration feels that county fairs that are managed by the county should have all gotten money from the county because the counties all received money. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that piece of it. This is like the last and the third grant that we put through trying to get some help for fairs that didn't have live events or only had modified fairs or nothing at all last year. It was suggested by Department of Administration that we try to apply anyway. So I went in and started filling out the application, but I kind of got brought right to a stop when it said, enter your information from your tax return. And because we are part of the county, we don't file a separate 990 form or a separate tax return. So that we couldn't continue. You can't continue on the online process until you fill that information in. So unfortunately, I think we won't be getting a share of that new grant either. Other than that, I don't have a lot. We have a Fair Board position recommendation, and I'll speak to that when we get to that part of the agenda. So if anybody has any questions for me?
What was the agency that said that because you're part of the county, they don't want to give money because the county got money?
That
Who
was,
said that?
it came from Department of Administration, basically the governor's office. When these when these grants first started way back last spring in 2020 in the summer, when they started working on these grants, they were all under WEDAC, or the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. And since the first of the year, they bowed out of all that whole grant process, and it was all moved under the Department of Administration, which is a division of the governor's office. And so it's been difficult to work with them now. So, but that's what they're telling us anyway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else have any questions for Deb? Okay, if not, we'll go on to Facilities and Parks Division Operations. Who wants to speak? Scott?
Good evening, everyone. You received my written report. Anybody have any questions on that? This was pretty basic. I also sent out the information on the ionization units that we're putting in at the Judicial Center. There was some interest last meeting when I mentioned about that. So I thought, well, I'll provide the information so you guys could read about it. And if you had any questions on it, we did get some of those started installing them. They're pretty easy to install, go right in the air handler units. So Jay and Jacob have been working on installing those. We did just yesterday received some more of the units. There are a couple different kinds of units, so they install differently, but they'll be getting those in. I did look into requesting a bid for the other buildings to get pricing on them. So once I get that information, I can present it to you guys, let you know what the other buildings would cost to do this same type of system.
Scott, on that, did you send along, I didn't get any information on those ion things in your report that you had mentioned about you would send along information. There was no attachment. So did everybody else get something?
No, I just checked and I didn't see it.
There was a brochure, like the third attachment on the agenda.
Yeah.
On my agenda, it's like the third PDF, along with right before the financial reports.
Okay.
The GPS.
Okay,
Yep, the
Okay.
GPS one. Yep.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I missed that, yeah. Scott, I have a question.
Yeah.
I think it was last week on the 10 o'clock news coming out of the cities. There were several schools and I think other probably government agencies that installed these units, and they were saying that they weren't living up to the performance specs that the company said they would. And I didn't pay too much attention to it at the time, but and I don't know which company this was, but they were saying they just weren't performing like they were supposed to. Has anybody else heard anything about that? It
I have not. Which news channel was that on?
was on channel 11 out of the
Okay.
cities.
Okay. I'm sure if I search online, I can find probably the news story about it
Yeah,
and see what company it is or what brand it is and figure out what it is.
okay,
I'll take a look at that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move on.
Oh, I still have some more.
Oh, okay. I
Not a
thought maybe,
No, we had some other stuff going on. One of the other things that's going on, I guess would fall into operations would be our well at Myron Park tested. We got a notice from the DNR that it tested high in nitrates. So we had a sample test done on June 21st, and it tested at 23.9 milligrams per liter. And on June 28th was 23.1. So they averaged it out to 23.5. So that's too high. The existing well at Myron Park is 40 feet down. So we had a teleconference or a phone call with the DNR, myself and Mike Nelson from the town of Sand Creek to discuss what was going to happen going forward with this. And the town of Sand Creek, luckily, has kind of planned for this, and they stuck money aside, and they're going to take care of drilling a new well and pay for it.
really?
So that's fortunate for us. So they are getting bids from well drillers. They got a response back from one well driller so far, but they're going to get the bids and decide who they're going to go with, and they're going to drill a new well. I will work with Mike Nelson in the town of Sand Creek to find out, where they're going to put it, how they're going to do it, all the steps of it. But I guess as far as we're concerned, we're not paying for it, so that's great. And they're fixing it, so that's also great. So then the old well will have to get filled and capped off, and then they'll have a new well at the campground, and they can continue. The plan is to have the well drilled and up and running and everything by May of next year, when the campground is set to open for the season. So I think that's a good thing that they're taking care of it, and we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, very nice. Very
That's
nice.
really good. For operations, I guess that would be about it right now. As far as going on to projects, the big project obviously at the government center going on is the front parking lot, and John will have more information on that, I'm sure, but that seems to be going along real well. There was some added concrete sidewalk was placed from the front parking lot to the patio on the east side of the building, which makes it nicer for employees to walk from the front parking lot over to the patio or around to the back side of the building for entering, as opposed to using the front entrance doors. We also replaced some broken, cracked sidewalk out in the front. There was a section in front of the handicap spots that was getting bad, chipped up. It would have stopped wheelchairs and walkers and could have caused a problem there. So we replaced that, got that taken care of. We got new sign faces for the sign out in front of the highway department. They will match the government center sign that we redid. The panels got the vinyl on today, so then we're set to start putting those panels on the existing sign out in front of highway, so that'll match. And then John had his guys build a sign to go on the entrance of the backyard of the highway shop and Transit and Potter's Field. So we just have to put a coat of white paint on the faces of that, and then they'll come and they'll put their vinyl on it. That'll be set. And then whenever the highway guys pour their mounts for it, that sign will go up. So start getting the signs looking all the same and be recognizable, and they stand out a lot more and be really catch the eye. We did I just did an auction that finished up on Monday. Sold the 2017 Ford Fusion out of the fleet. That was the last vehicle that we own ourselves. I think I told John we paid $18,000 for that car when we bought it new. Had 79,000 miles on it. We got $9,000 out of it. Thought we did really well there. Sold a couple of sheriff's department cruisers that they were getting rid of, or vehicles they were getting rid of, an Expedition and Explorer. The Explorer, we got $9,000 out of it, and the Expedition, we got $6,000 out of it. So the used car market's up there. We got some good dollars out of that. I had some other miscellaneous stuff that I sold off of that has been sitting around that nobody claimed out of surplus. So I put up for sale. Smaller stuff, kind of. Some of the stuff sold for like $5 a piece. Other stuff went a little higher, but it's good to see the stuff move instead of sitting around the stuff that we're never going to use. So the Wisconsin surplus auction came through pretty good for us again. Next, I'll have a couple of trucks from Land and Water Conservation and another one from surveying that they want to sell off that they have replaced. So I'll have a couple more vehicles, and then probably put some more of the smaller stuff up on the auction with it to recoup some more money.
Okay. On the parking lot there, was there a soft spot, or it seemed like they did a lot of digging in that one spot? Every
They
time
did
I
a
go
lot.
by there, they were hauling dirt out of the same spot.
Well, they did a lot of digging. Once they started digging into it, they found out that it was actually a layer of pavement, a layer of crushed rock, black dirt. Then down underneath that was more crushed rock, and then finally got down to the sand. So it was not good. That's one of the reasons why the parking lot was the way it was, because the base was not good underneath it. So the highway guys dug a lot of that out of there and getting it a lot better base under it. So John could probably tell a lot more out of that.
Okay, any other questions on anything that Scott reported on? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the facilities fleet.
Facilities fleet there. Scott's been in touch with Jen and Emily from Enterprise. We found out our Malibus that were supposed to be delivered in August have not been built yet. The GM plant building Malibus was down for part of July and most of August. The plant is back up and running, she said, and our vehicles are in queue. So as soon as they get built and tagged and invoiced, she said she would have a projected delivery date. So they're still on the way there. I did talk, Austin with our transit manager had a meeting with Steve Hirschfield here on Monday, and we did track down some more information on our chargers for the electric buses. Earlier this spring when we ordered them, we said as soon as they were complete, we would take them and get them shipped rather than sit on them until we needed them. Hadn't arrived, and now they did some back checking. They are still waiting for some components. So those have not been built yet, nor have they been shipped, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because the same thing with the buses and the chips and those being delayed, hopefully they're all going to come hand in hand. And because of the delay, Excel and MJ Electric can install them, which in this case, since we don't have the buses, is a good thing, because as soon as the chargers get installed, we basically get 6 months, and then they start charging us a meter charge. So if we're going to be waiting on the buses, there's really no sense to have the meters installed or the chargers installed, because as soon as our grace period for the 6 months runs out, we'd be paying a 3-phase meter charge. So hopefully this all comes hand in hand with the delay in the buses and the delay in the chargers. as soon as they merge a little bit closer together, we should have our 6-month window, be able to use that and then put everything online in queue per plan, just a little bit of delay. So the other thing, the solar grant, Steve said because of COVID, because everything's delayed, DOT has been shut down in their offices down there. He said he will definitely give us a minimum of 1-year extension on our solar grant. So now we can continue working on the research phase, putting everything out for bid, getting a consultant lined up, then putting everything out to bid. And it looks like probably next spring, we might be able to chase the frost out of the ground. And this thing should be online mid to late summer. And we should have plenty of time to utilize our grant. The other thing is, he said there is extra money available. So in the meantime, if we decide a bigger system or a battery system might work, he said, let's get together and let's do some more research. Because he said if the funding is available, he said he's willing to jump our grant amount up. So I thought that was excellent news this week.
Okay.
So any questions on either the bus and the charging stations or the central fleet?
I do have one question, John, in regards
Sure.
to, have we heard back at all from the solar guys that you provided the detail information to on how big of a solar array we should have?
I have not been in contact with him for about a month and a half, and I'm still trying to pin down a local electrician that can see about what it's going to take to split our meters over at the neighbors. So that's kind of been on my back plate. So my next step before I go back to Eagle Point is to figure out what the cost is going to be to get either 2 meters or 3 meters over at the neighbors, so we can split them into multiple 100 kW systems. So that's going to be the next thing on my list, to try to pin down an electrician and see what it would take to split meters over at the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Dave.
You mentioned that there's more funding available. Is there anything the committee has to do, or?
I don't believe so. Steve Hirschfield will definitely keep us in the loop, but it sounded like he would basically be able to take the grant and the MOU that we currently have signed and basically just up the amount. If there's funding available, I think we're at 165,000 right now. So potentially it would go up from there. And either he said, expand your solar panel capabilities, or because we would be putting it, either using it ourselves or putting it back into the grid. And I don't know if that the PS&E, if they've settled that lawsuit yet, if that's gotten any farther. Or he said now the battery storage systems are starting to get pretty reasonable and more cost effective. So maybe we could end up putting one of them in and storing our energy that we're not putting back in the grid. So
So he's just gonna go ahead and raise the grant if the money's available.
if the money is there, yep, and we have the capabilities to spend it, he's going to keep us informed. Typically we meet with him about once a month or so. And it all depends on how much money is available. You know, if it's 50,000, that would be great. If it's 150,000, even better. Mike,
Yeah.
yep.
Mike, you got a question?
Yeah, is there some advantage to maybe trying the battery if that becomes an option for us to see how that works? And maybe that would then work on some of the larger buildings that we're looking at to make up for what we can't sell back to the utilities.
Yes. And I think this transit one, because it is basically like a 90-10, this is our chance to try all these try the systems kind of on somebody else's dime and on a smaller scale. And then once we know that they work, I think then we know, okay, this is the direction we want to head on these larger systems or the multiple buildings that we are interested in putting solar on. So here's our chance to try out all this stuff or do some investigation and then have minimal of our own cash going out to try this. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Okay, any other questions by anybody? If not, we'll go on to the financial reports that was all sent out. Does anybody?
I was
have-
just gonna touch a little bit on the parking lot yet, Chuck.
Oh, okay.
That has been going really good. We were able to do all the concrete work in-house with guys from the highway department that do concrete. I think the median islands there look excellent. They were putting in and replacing all the concrete sidewalks and wheelchair ramps for Scott. They did a little bit over by the blacksmith shop. It turned out fantastic, and we did it for a heck of a lot less than what we would have had a regular concrete contractor in. And we were able to expedite the schedule because it was all people in-house. One other thing we talked about, Scott and I, is with the price of materials, construction materials, because of COVID kind of skyrocketing and the delays on everything. We were able to remove and relocate 3 of the light bases. So we didn't have to start off with new light bases. We just put LED luminaires, Scott, 2 or 3 years ago on those parking lot lights. So they're relatively new luminaires. A couple of the poles that are getting a little bit rusty, Scott and Greg have talked it over. We're going to repaint them. We can probably save 55 to 65,000. And then down the road, if we ever build the connecting bike route and street over to Stokey there to the north side of the sheriff's department, if we want, we can do all the lights and they'll all match and everything at one time. So what's the committee's feeling on that? It was kind of our call to save a bunch of money, and we thought it was going to be a good idea. And what we have works really well. And there's no sense to take down LED lights and then put new LED lights up.
Right, makes sense to me. So,
And we kind
Makes
of did the
sense to me.
same thing on the landscape plan. Dustin and I talked it over with Dave Thatcher, who's kind of running that project over there. We've been able to really minimize the disturbance of any of the landscaping. So I think we're just going to get it all back into grass right now, and the trees and shrubs and plants, they can, I think, all wait until the same thing when we proceed with the bike path and the street around there. And that's going to be another substantial cost savings.
okay. Yeah, Mike, question?
Well, I guess I got a comment. I appreciate the opportunity for us to save some money. It's nice to hear that instead of us spending more money. So I guess, thank you.
You're welcome. Otherwise, that pretty much concludes my staff report for the month, unless anybody's got any questions.
Okay, any other questions for anybody that's spoke so far? Seeing none, we'll move on. Corporation Council staff report, nothing there. Environmental Services Department, the wheelchair, where are we at on that, John?
I haven't heard from Accessibility Wisconsin or Rotary yet. And I know Bob Colson has one more week on because they did get his replacement. She's on board now. So I will coordinate with both of them before Bob leaves. And Bob is going to get me the contacts for Rotary and Accessibility Wisconsin. But the last we heard from them, they were still waiting for the enclosed trailer so they could get it up here. I think Scott and I kind of have it figured out where we're going to store it on site. We'll be able to have it where the charger can get plugged in and it'll be safe and secure. So I think once we receive it, I think we're pretty much on board with what we need, except for a few minor little technical deals. But I think as soon as it comes here, we're going to be ready and proud to show it off.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll go down to item G, considerations for actions to be taken by the committee. Relocation of the governmental center phone. What's happening there, Scott?
All right,
Got
something that something that we've had in discussion, John and I have, and wanted to bring it to the committee. The fountain that is in front of the government center, I don't know if are you all familiar with the fountain that's in front of the government center?
Yep.
That fountain was placed in front of the Dunn County Healthcare Center building in the reconstruction of the front parking lot in 1999. It just so happens that I started working for Dunn County at the healthcare center in 2000, and I recall the dedication of that fountain. The fountain was originally in front of the old original asylum building that was behind the government center originally. And that fountain was supposed to be turned into the government back in war times. And instead, that fountain was placed in storage, and Dunn County got away with keeping that fountain. And so then in 99, it was brought back out in the construction. It was repainted, and it was placed in this fountain out in front of the healthcare center. And it was dedicated to long-term care workers. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the government center. So it fits more with the neighbors because long-term care workers. So I wanted to get it out there and find the committee's feeling on this of whether that should be relocated one day or, taken out and either put into storage or relocated in front of the neighbors since it's for long-term care. Just question out there. The fountain as it sits is kind of a maintenance headache. When they installed that fountain, they did not put any type of water fill system to it. There's a pit in the ground that has to be filled daily with a garden hose. Our nearest garden hose is off to the side of the building, so we have to bring a garden hose over, fill up the pit with water, and so let it run. And when they first had it up and running, there was no float on the pump. So if the fountain ran out of water, the pump would run out of water and burn up. So these architects or these engineers that designed this did not do a good job on it at all. So we've fought this for 21 years now of filling that up. And if it gets plugged up with leaves and stuff, or it gets dirt or whatever in there, placing some chemical into it to shock it or cleaning it out. The thing does go through quite a bit of water when it's running. The wind blowing, it blows it out of there, or evaporation. So there's quite a bit of water use to it too. So I wanted to throw that out to you guys, see what your thoughts are about keeping it there as is or moving it out. John and I thought if we went ahead with moving the fountain out of there, that front area would be nice to do some decorative concrete, put some benches out there, and probably some bike racks. People could walk up through there. Hang on a second. There, I was looking at the filtration system ad that Don had mentioned, and I found it, and it started going on my computer. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. Probably might not have come through.
I thought maybe it was the government coming wanting that fountain and you were on your way to jail.
No, none of that. So I
Oh,
had it on.
okay.
I had it on my other window open, and it started to add on there. So I had to quick shut that off. Anyway, John and I figured that the front of the government center, where the fountain is, since we're going to relocate the flagpole over to the new Veterans Memorial, that will be out of there. And then it would clean up the front by taking the fountain out of there and have some nice concrete. People could walk up through there and have benches or have bike racks for people to park their bikes right up in front there. So we thought we'd throw it out for you guys and see what your thoughts were.
Well, I think it sounds like an excellent idea. What does everybody else think?
I guess I'd vote for the benches and the bike racks.
I'd probably leave the status quo. Kind of neat to have a fountain.
Okay. Ron, what
Hey,
do you think?
you want me to break the tie?
Well, Ron's got it.
Or
Ron's got
create
it.
another one.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess there isn't a tie yet.
No.
Maintenance of a fountain seems to me to be a lot of work, so I think I'd be in favor of the bike rack and the benches. You can always have benches that are dedicated to whatever.
Ron, what do you think?
That sounds like a lot of work to use it with the water hose all the time. Yeah, I'd get rid of it.
Well, I think the consensus is to let's relocate it and go from there. So I don't, were you thinking of pulling it this fall yet and put it into storage? You just leave it sit until next spring, or what was your timetable?
I guess I didn't have a timetable on it. I figured we could make a plan once we had a decision of which way to go on it
Okay.
and work with highway on it.
Yeah.
And Chuck, I think we're gonna do it this fall, because our plan was we salvaged the 2 flagpoles from the old government center. We pulled them out when we sold that property to City of Menominee. And they're sitting in I think behind the old power plant, right, Scott?
Behind the old boiler room, yes.
But while we have the men and the equipment down there, we were gonna set all 3 in the location that Greg Quinn has set up, because I believe it's gonna be a federal flag, state flag, and a POW MIA flag. So we're gonna reset those 3 flag poles before we are done with the parking lot project. So if we pull that flag pole that's kind of behind the fountain, I think as long as we're there and we got the concrete guys and we're gonna pull that flag pole, I think if we get the okay, pull the fountain, we'll salvage it, and then we can decide what we want to do with it later on. But I think we should remove it yet this fall. Is my
Mike, you had a comment?
Yeah, if you're gonna, so you're talking to relocate it over in front of the neighbors, correct? The
I think-
fountain?
I think
Yeah.
that would be where it would be best placed.
When you do that, are you gonna put in a water line and a float or something on the pump and upgrade
I would
that
like-
so it's less maintenance?
I would like to do it right this time and have it so that we could have a water supply and a float and everything. So it'd be less maintenance to it.
Okay.
That would make sense.
It would, yes.
Okay, so then I guess go ahead, John, and get your people lined up to do whatever you need to do, and we'll
Yep.
go from there.
Perfect.
Dave, you got a question or comment?
Yeah. I see this as an action item. You should probably have a motion on it so that,
Oh, yeah.
to make it official from the
Okay.
committee.
Okay, do I hear a motion to relocate the center that's in front of the Government Services Building now to be placed in storage and later on put over at the neighbors? Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Don made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tim seconded. Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Okay, now that's official. Okay, next one, the Central Fleet Vehicle use for University Extension. I did receive a letter from Catherine, and they are withdrawing their request to use a vehicle. So that is, no action will be needed on that item because they have withdrew the request to use it. So, okay, next item. C, Dunn Fair Board appointment. Deb?
I put that in the, my report. Troy Steinmeier, we actually wanted to add him to the fair board prior to the fair last year. He's been working closely with us for probably a year and a half and was real instrumental in bringing our modified fair to fruition last year. Works real close with the whole rest of us. So we just now, that map is all brought under the fair board and everything is working good. We'd like to add him officially to the fair board. It would be a position that would expire in 2023. I think it would be Cheyenne Kai's older position. I kind of lost track with so many people that resigned and came on, but it would be to keep our rotation correctly, it would be filling a 2023 expiration position.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to forward Troy Steinmeier's name to the
I so move.
motion
I
has been made?
second.
Mike second, motion has been made and seconded to forward Troy Steinmeier's name to the county board. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, the same. Okay. And then, Dave, you'll need that forwarded to you, right?
Yes, and if you want to check and put in there who he's replacing for sure. And any information, contact information you have of him, email and phone number, so I can pass it on to the clerk's office so they can do their job, please.
You bet. I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next one, item H, considerations, reports, resolutions, or ordinances to be recommended to the county board by the facilities committee. There are none. So that brings us down to our next meeting date, which is October 27th, 2021. Any other comments or discussions that based on what we've talked about?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. The WTA fall meeting is the October 27th. Could I be excused for this to attend that? I think I would provide more value to the towns, providing my report.
Oh, sure. Most definitely. Yeah.
And the church ladies, it's the fall banquet, so I'd be missing out on the church ladies' food. So
Oh, now wait a minute.
that's the
wait a minute.
bonus.
Hey. You're okay with phase one. Yeah, Deb, you're gonna go eat supper up there too.
Yep, I'm gonna
That's-
join John
that's
and
the
eat supper
perks.
there too.
Well, I tell you what,
It's the church
Bring your
ladies.
computer.
let's just all meet up there at the church and we'll have supper and we'll have a meeting in the parking lot, you know? I mean,
That works for me.
yeah.
Those
Okay,
house
no,
dinners
that-
are pretty good.
Oh, yeah, they are. I've eaten there. They are good. Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
fine. Just, send your normal reports, both of you, and we'll,
Yep.
we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
and Scott will be there, and I'll eat a dessert for everybody, I promise.
Okay. At least sample it all anyway.
Yes.
So, okay, if nothing else needs to be discussed.